Hi, I'm Rob Patz.
And I'm Kristen Stanton.
And this is the Rob and Kristen Show.
Where have you been?
Well, it's an episode of the show where we're going to talk about travel. So
We're talking
I'm
about
packed.
we're talking about travel. We're not going anywhere today. That's in
We're
a
not?
few days.
Oh no. Well, at least I'm ahead of the game then. I'm packed and ready to go.
Well, where's your coffee?
I forgot my coffee. See, Kristen usually takes care of that for me so that I don't have to worry about my coffee, because we all know, I mean, if you've watched the show at all, know that I love coffee. And one of our great sponsors here on the Rob and Kristen Show is 7 Weeks Coffee. They have been amazing to us and we love them. And in fact, they love you guys so much that we have a special offer right now, 10% off. Use the promo code ATV10 when you order, and they just do fantastic stuff, don't they?
They absolutely do. They take a portion of all of their proceeds and they donate it to help save the life of an unborn child. And I love it because, you know, when we're traveling someplace, we can make the coffee ahead of time, fill up your little thermos or whatever it's called, and take it with you. And it,
oh yeah,
you know, it keeps us, if we're driving, it keeps us from having to stop on the road someplace and get you some coffee.
Oh,
now,
yes.
And heading to the airport is super important because, you know, you got to have your coffee, especially if it's first thing in the morning.
Caffeinated. If we're leaving early in the morning, I've got to make sure that I'm caffeinated and ready to go. And that's something else we could talk about. We could talk about travel snacks. We didn't even think of that, but these are 5 things we think you should know about travel and that we think are important. One of those that I think is super important, and I actually lured Kristen into this when we first started dating and then got married, is I believe wholeheartedly in brand loyalty when I travel. I am very, very excited to always travel with certain brands. And I think partially it's because I then feel kind of special when I do. And you know it's always about me feeling kind of special.
Especially as an only child.
Yes. I would give a shout out, and we're not sponsored, but like Hilton, when I go to a Hilton, especially there's a Hilton in Atlanta that I go to, and when I come, they know I love Reese's peanut butter cups. So on my bed is always Reese's peanut butter cups when I check in. So that is super cool. They also do French press coffee. They didn't do that every time, but the Reese's were every time.
So brand loyalty, whether it's flying or if you're driving and staying at hotels, you know, it's really important because, Rob, you can build points, or if it's airline travel, you can build miles, and it helps you towards future travel. And so if that's something that you like to do, like we do, then why not? Why not take advantage of their programs? And we've done it with Delta, and we've got Hilton and Marriott and IHG.
Yep, because we like to stay at hotels. And the neat part about the hotel thing, and I think that's something really important, is that with the hotels, if you stay enough times, you get a free night. And we've used that too. Or we've used our points to get free nights.
We've done both.
Both, yeah.
And we've redeemed airline miles for free round trip tickets. It's just been really great, and it's allowed us to continue to do the things that we love to do.
And that's my really big thing is, and I've really been a strong advocate for a long time for people to get hooked in. It doesn't matter who you like. We like Delta. Before I was a Delta person, I was a Southwest person. Because Southwest flew at a lot of places that I needed to go. But Delta is just amazing. And we're, again, not paid by Delta, but we love Delta a lot. And so we appreciate them and get a chance to go and fly very soon. In fact, when you see this, I will probably be packing for real.
Yes. So one of the things that I think is super important when you travel, and it doesn't matter if you're doing air travel or if you're traveling by car, one of the things that's really important is to make sure that you have your entertainment ready. So preload those podcasts, listen to sermons if you like that, have your books, which you know is what I'm going to be doing.
That's what's in here. This thing weighs 100 pounds.
Or, you know, one of the things that you can do is you can put movies on your mobile devices. Or, you know, you can just tune in and watch Abundant TV if you're driving.
Yeah, I was going to say, or yeah, exactly. Or if, depending on the airlines, make sure you check to make sure that they have, you know, entertainment on board. Yeah. Because you want to make sure with that. We're thankful with Delta, with most of our flights we get. And again, they don't sponsor a thing. Come on, Delta. Come on, man. Look at how many miles we got. You should be.
But you're right. There's times where you get onto a plane and you think you're going to have, you know, those little TVs on the back of the seats. You have your in-flight entertainment, and there's no TVs. What am I going to do? If you don't have movies on your mobile device or you don't have your book, you're sitting there for 2 hours just looking out the window if you're lucky enough to have a window seat.
Yes.
Or else, I don't know, taking a nap.
Well, you know the one thing I do, and we didn't talk about this ahead of time, not that we really ever script any of this, because if
don't tell our secrets.
Yes, is I always take a notepad with, and I sit and write. There have been times, and I hate to say this, and it's all airlines have had this problem, where the internet doesn't work. And I'll sit and write, and I'll write stuff. It's amazing what got download to you in that time sometimes. So I always recommend, and I tell everybody that's friends of mine, is take a notebook and a pen. It doesn't have to be a big notebook.
Right.
I used to carry a really small one. My dad used to have one that he was similar to the kind he would put in his car for gas. You remember that? I don't know if your dad did that, but he would write down, because my dad was just that way, he would write down exactly how many miles he got on each tank of gas. I don't know why, to be honest with you. I have no idea why he did. I just think he liked the challenge of seeing if he could get better gas mileage.
Could be.
So you've got your brand loyalty, we've got, you know, your stuff, so you're prepared. Number 3, and this is kind of important right now, and it's a big deal, and if you've been watching the news, is real ID. And it's super easy to get.
This is if you're flying. Now, if you're driving, it doesn't matter. But,
but I'd still
if you plan on flying, you have to have,
do it.
I'd
get it done. Get your real ID. It's super simple. It took about 5 minutes, maybe that. I think it was about 5, maybe 10 minutes to do. For me, Kristen did it prior. She was way ahead, so you get a little star, and she of course loved that. That was the big part for her. She got the star before me, and being the good student, she got a star, and that made her feel really good.
Whatever. That's not true. Not true at all.
Totally
not true at all.
Exactly what it is.
Who are you going to believe, me or him?
Well, look at it. I mean, come on. How would you not believe me? But real ID is important. It is, especially if you're planning this summer to head someplace on vacation.
Yeah, I mean, if you're from overseas or from Canada, you got to get your passport.
Get your passport, which
those are really important things. You know, you said we weren't going to talk about it, but I am going to talk about it. Snacks.
Okay.
Snacks.
Snacks are important.
Because
they should have been number 1.
Yeah, they should have been.
I don't know what we were thinking.
But if you're driving or if you're flying, you've got to be prepared. Now, especially if you're flying, because you got to know what can go through TSA screening. Because sometimes you think, oh, this should be able to go through, and sometimes it doesn't. And so that is a little bit of a problem. What's one of the things that we always take?
That we take as a snack?
Yeah.
We take checks if we're going trail mix.
Trail mix.
Yes.
If we're driving.
If we're driving.
Yeah.
Yes. If we're in a car, we do that. So I'm going to tell you a funny story about this, and make sure you do check TSA. So I'm behind this guy, and they're telling him they're going to have to throw his things away. They're digging through his stuff. He has a full thing of salsa. He had been at a Mexican restaurant prior to getting on the plane, and he is literally he was crying because he loved that salsa so much. And the guy goes, "Listen, you can't take it through. It's liquids. It's more than, the safe amount." So anyway, be sure to check that. That's what it is. But yes, we do take trail mix. And
I think that one of the important things, if you're flying too, just know what you can take.
Yep.
But I think one of the things too is if you can keep it in its original package, it really helps you get through that TSA line a little bit quicker. My sister-in-law Lori and I have been stopped more times than I can count because of snacks in our bags that we've taken out and put in Ziploc bags. You know, try to be organized, but they've told us, hey, if you keep them in the original package, it helps us because we don't have to screen everything.
So funny thing, and I wasn't going to even talk about this, but funny thing. So going through TSA, right? And I just won an award. I was really proud of this award. It was a very fancy award, very, very fancy. And it came in a little box, wood box. Okay, so it was good size, and it's crystal. So I have it in my bag, and I'm literally standing there, and I put it in the bottom, tucked all my clothes around it, make sure it was safe. On my carry-on, I'm not checking it. And this guy is taking everything out of my bag. I'm so embarrassed because it's like, you know, things that we don't really want everybody to see. And I'm like, oh God, oh, no, please. Anyway, so but make sure and be careful. Like you said, be careful and be mindful of what you can and can't take through TSA. And it's really important. And it's one of those things that, and be early. If I can stress one thing about that, about the whole situation with that is be early. Make sure that you are to TSA and through, because it's not always a guarantee. Sure, one time it can be like, well, the time we went just through Dallas, we literally were the first people, and it was like, I don't know, it was 10 o'clock in the morning or something. It was early, but it wasn't that early.
It wasn't super early, but then we've also shown up at the airport at 4 something when we were in Little Rock, I think.
Little Rock, Arkansas,
We showed up at the airport because we had one of the earliest flights out. We showed up at the airport before TSA even opened, and we thought there's not going to be anybody there. Remember when we walked in and there was this ridiculously long line of high school kids? They must have been going on some kind of trip.
Yep.
And they were all waiting to check bags. And the only thing that we said to each other was, thank goodness we are not checking a bag today.
Yes, and we got through, and that was really quick and super easy. But just be prepared and make sure. Same thing happened to us on our family trip in Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
And that was quite an experience. They shot us 2 floors down because they was so busy. And it made for, and see,
yes.
I'm one of these people, and they're different people for different times. I'm one of these people, once I hit the airport or once I get in the car, depending on if it's a road trip, that's when my vacation starts.
Right.
So I want to have fun from that point forward. So make sure you're there early, TSA. Make sure you enjoy that moment because you don't want to start your trip off stress.
Right. And I think that's kind of the last thing that we really wanted to talk about was just when you're planning your travel, make sure you're enjoying the experience, whether you're driving or whether you're flying. Either one, make sure you leave with enough time so that you don't feel like you're in a rush. If you get stuck in traffic someplace and you're driving someplace, know that, hey, maybe God is protecting you from something. We talk about that a lot.
All the time.
When I'm getting impatient when we're sitting stuck, usually in Indianapolis.
Indianapolis, we see you. We see you, Indianapolis.
But make sure that you enjoy the journey. For us, for me, when we fly, as soon as we get through TSA, is when the experience really starts. And when we are fortunate enough to fly Delta, again, not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
But when we're fortunate enough to fly Delta, we can get to the Sky Club if the airport has a Sky Club and just sit down and relax and just really enjoy the trip. Because when you just focus on where you're going, just like in life, you focus on where you're going, you miss all of these things along the way.
Yep, that's it. Wow, that was really good. I like your tie-in there. That is awesome. Hey, we've got a great interview today.
We do. He was a lot of fun. And when we were doing this, I was looking for these interviews when we're editing all of this stuff together, and I started listening to him, and I'm like, he is super smart.
Yes.
Just really smart, really great guy, and you're going to want to check him out. He's got all kinds of information, all kinds of things going on that he's involved in, and so we hope you enjoy this interview.
Hey, we are so excited to be at the National Religious Broadcasters, and this gentleman I am super excited to interview because I know nothing about science, but he does, and I'm thankful for people like this because without him, I wouldn't know anything. And I was impressed. We were talking ahead of time, and I went, "Wow, there's like all kinds of stuff." Scientific people look at life completely different. He's like, "There are animals." We were talking about South Africa, and there are animals, and I'm sitting there thinking about bugs. Is what. But please introduce yourself to our audience.
Rob, I'm David Rives. I'm from the Nashville, Tennessee area, and I think you may actually be underestimating yourself because what color is the sky?
It's blue.
Okay, so you see, science is actually knowledge of the natural world, scientia. So you have knowledge of the natural world. That means you do know something about science.
I'm getting myself a white coat. I'm gonna be.
No,
No.
it really is simple though. I mean, it's like the Apostle Paul told the Romans, just look around you, and the invisible things all around you are pointing back to the Godhead itself, so that we're without excuse if we can't look around and say, whoa, somebody had to have created all of this. And so that's really what it's about. It's a simple idea of looking around you at God's creation and realizing there has to be a creator who has a plan for our life and who loves us a whole lot to put us in this situation on this beautiful earth. Even in our sinful state, there is still a plan.
So, David, what got you excited about science in the first place?
You know, when I was about 8 years old, I started picking up fossils from my backyard in Middle Tennessee, just south of Nashville. And I realized that all of these fossils, are part of God's creation, and they tell a story. And so I started to put those fossils in a fishing tackle box. And I plastered a little like a sign with Scotch tape on the front of it that said Rives Fossil Museum, okay? Now, this was at 8 years old. Well, little did I know that little collection, several years down the road, would turn into the largest science museum in Tennessee, over 100,000 square foot center called the Wonders Center and Science Museum, which we just opened up just over a year ago.
Wow, so where is that located?
And so we're just outside of Nashville, about 35 minutes due west of downtown in a town called Dixon, Tennessee. And the Wonders Center has one of the top 10 planetariums in the world, a massive 60-foot full-dome planetarium that puts you fully interactive, flying past galaxies. We've got full-size 55-foot-long dinosaurs that greet you as you're getting the tickets to the museum. And then we do a lot of content on science and Bible history and how it all connects to our Christian walk.
I think we need to do a show there.
I think we're going on a road
we
trip.
We are going to Tennessee to do it. I think that would be awesome. So tell everybody a little bit about the process, because obviously this didn't just happen overnight, about opening something like this. And what was your drive to do that?
When I was 16, I started getting an interest in astronomy, okay, and telescopes. I'm looking through telescopes, and my family had a telescope, and I'm like, well, what if I could connect cameras to the back of those telescopes and take a photo of what I could see, of a planet, of a galaxy, of a nebula, It would be so neat. Well, there's an art to astrophotography. It's not as easy as it sounds. And so many, many, many sleepless nights and weeks of trying to figure all of this out, and I finally took a photo, and it was of the great Orion Nebula. Now, a lot of times we look up in the sky and we see Orion as like a belt and a sword. 3 stars for a belt, 3 stars as a sword. But in between 2 of those sword stars is this little cloud in space, and it's called the Great Orion Nebula. Now, I'd always seen that picture in Sky and Telescope magazine, but I was like, yeah, they must have colored it or doctored it or it can't look that good. And then I took the picture for myself. My jaw dropped to the floor at 16, and I was like, wow, the heavens declare the glory of God. Everything is pointing back to His design. And then, second question I had to ask myself was, why is this a hobby? Why can't I use my studies and in researching astronomy and astrophysics and taking photos of space and turn that around and turn it into a ministry that would be used for God's glory? So at 18, I started speaking on these issues and talking about how all of science, when it's interpreted correctly, is pointing us right back to the grand designer of the universe and ultimately to Jesus. And then that turned into a career of producing content and TV shows and writing books, and now this massive museum in the Nashville area.
So tell us about some of the books that you've written.
Okay, so my first book was called Wonders Without Number, and is based on a verse in Job. Now, Job, there's a verse that says that God does great things past finding out and wonders without number. And I'm chewing that over one day and I realized, you know what? There's things in this life we're not going to know. They're past finding out. But God has also done wonders without number, an innumerable number of wonders that we can study, that we can observe, that we can use science on, and that we're faced with two opportunities. We can either say, wow, look at what time and chance has accomplished by nothing, right? Or, wow, look at what our Lord has done. And so that was the process of the first book, is looking at those wonders that we can study within the natural world that point back to our Creator. And then the second book is called 21 Verses Backed by Science, Deepen Your Faith. And I was just astounded in writing and researching for that book that there are verses scattered all throughout the Scripture that point back to scientific accuracy, sometimes thousands of years before scientists finally caught up.
This all kind of boggles me. So you really at an early age had a call to do this. And we have a lot of like young moms that have kids out there that are, in homeschool or in regular school. How would you tell them, or dads, how to encourage their kids into science, get into science?
Absolutely. And I was homeschooled, but I was never particularly a bright student. So what I would encourage them...
See, we could be friends then.
What I would encourage them is don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated. Just because you may not be good at science, listen. All you have to do is really open up the world for your children to study, and you're going to see this incredible complexity, and it's going to become obvious. And I was sort of allowed to follow my passions. I was able to travel a good bit. I was able to get out there and with a telescope late at night, didn't have to worry about, having to study all that hard the next day, because again, it was a passion, and studying and actually using that passion, I realized that, wow, the world comes alive. Science connects with history. History connects with all of these other studies that many times we say, yeah, well, these things are boring and I don't really like my studies, or well, I'm not into science, or well, I'm not into mathematics. Can I give you one little vignette?
I love this.
Okay,
yeah.
So when it comes to mathematics, again, a lot of people are intimidated with numbers, but there was this Italian mathematician by the name of Leonardo Fibonacci. And Fibonacci traveled with his father down to northern Africa at a time when everybody else was still using the Roman numeral system. I was 3, right?
Yep.
Well, he became aware of the Arabic numeral system, where we would write a 3 like this,
Yeah.
Okay, so he started to do these fun little exercises where he's adding numbers up together, and he comes up with a thing called the Fibonacci sequence, which is basically taking the last 2 numbers in a sequence and adding them together and summing it up. Okay, so it's just this simple sequence, and he's like, wow, isn't this fun? And then scientists started to look, and they found that exact same pattern in nature, in the spiral design of galaxies, in the petals and the seeds in the middle of a sunflower, in things like the growth and design of our ear, that exact same pattern and number system. So then you have to ask yourself, well, wait a second. Why would a random mathematician who loved numbers think up something that just so happens to be used all throughout the natural world? The only way this would happen is if it's not a natural world. If God created the universe in the beginning using numbers and mathematics and all of those principles, and then he created us in his image with just that tiny fraction of his ability to understand mathematics, so that we would discover those principles down the roads thousands of years.
So I just got to say this. So really, you've made now me really, at my old age, excited about it, because it's kind of like a scavenger hunt.
It is everything. Okay, so I lead African photo safaris. I will take a maximum of 40 people.
Just another little thing that you do. It's not like you don't have anything else to do, but you lead African safari studies too.
Listen, my life is a complete adventure, and it's been an incredible blessing. But when I take people out, 40 people max, into the middle of the African bushveld, and I rent out an entire reserve, and we get in these game vehicles, and we start driving, and at sunrise, we see lions with sun shining through their manes, and we see giraffes, and we see zebras, and we get really close to cheetahs and all of those things.
No. I will not be going with him on any of these safaris because I don't want to be close to a cheetah or a lion.
Well, let's say you can still appreciate them from a distance. And here is one of the ways that we can appreciate even a cheetah from a distance, okay? So if you think about a leopard, right? A leopard has what? Spots. Okay. A cheetah has what? Spots.
Yes.
Okay. So what makes, yes, but what makes a cheetah and a leopard different? Do you guys know?
No, I don't. Please don't embarrass me on my own TV show, okay?
This is so neat. This is so neat. Okay,
Just cut that part out, Rob.
Pretend like I'm smart. Insert smart right here.
No, most people don't know. They're like, well, they both have spots. What does make them different? Well, there's a couple of differences, but one of the main differences is the cheetah has what's called a malar stripe, a tear-like black mark that runs down its cheek from its eye and then down to the corner of its mouth. Now, here's the thing. The leopard hunts at nighttime. The cheetah hunts during the early morning hours and sometimes at day. Do you know that our favorite sports teams, when they're underneath bright stadium lights, they oftentimes, that's
eye
right,
black.
they put eye black to absorb the stadium light so it won't reflect and they won't have to squint. Well, the cheetah has been designed with natural eye black so that it can hunt during the daytime and absorb that light and not have to squint. Does that sound like an accident? Does that sound like random chance, or does that sound like inspired design?
That is awesome.
See, he got me with the football. He finally brought it around to something I understood.
There you go.
I got to tell you, David, I haven't been this excited about science and nature since I was in college. I was dreading my science course, and I ended up taking Earth Space Science.
Okay.
And so we studied fossils, we studied creation science, and I was so excited. It was my favorite class, and I started teaching at my church creation science after that. And I've got to tell you, I haven't been this excited about science and nature since then.
You guys have to come visit the museum.
Oh, I'm sure that will be on our agenda. So tell me, where's the favorite place in the whole world that you've gone?
My favorite place in the whole world that I've gone is it is in Africa. Now, I mean, I felt closer to the Lord in the Swiss Alps than any other place. You know, there are places that are memorable, but in the middle of the African bushveld is my favorite place that I've ever visited in the entire world. And I keep going back year after year after year, because when you see all of that nature around you and realize that that plant and that tree and that grass and that animal and that, they're all so perfectly designed for their environment. There's no way it could have happened by chance. It points back to God's creation.
That's awesome.
That is so cool. Give everybody the website so they can come find this place.
Gotcha. Okay. So David Rives is spelled David R-I-V-E-S. David Rives Ministries. You can look that up and it'll get you to all the different places. But the Wonders Center and Science Museum is the museum. It's about 35 minutes west of Nashville in Dixon, Tennessee. And that's simply wonderscenter.org. Sign up for our email updates. Sign up for our free print magazine. And you can catch us on a lot of the platforms like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and learn more about what we're doing. And again, hopefully leave inspired with everything you see around you and go back telling your friends, look, it all points right back to God.
That's awesome.
That is so cool. Thank you so much for being with us.
Absolutely.
Hanging out with David Rives makes me realize how little I really know about anything.
No, you just know different things. He knows a lot about science, and he was so interesting. And I know I had a lot of fun talking to him, and I hope that you enjoyed that interview as much as what we had doing it.
Yes, in fact, we're hoping at some point to get down and do a complete show down there. They've invited us to come down and tour the whole facility, and of course, you can't go wrong going to Tennessee, so we're excited about that. And man, where did the time go? It went by way too fast again. Hey, listen, we appreciate you. Hey, you know what? I had an idea, just really quick.
Okay.
Before we close, and I know we got to go, but I would love for people to tell us their favorite place to go.
Yes.
Where is your favorite place to go on vacation? Like one of my favorite places, people would go, why is that? I love going to Whitefish, Montana. Now, there's not really anything to do in Whitefish, Montana, and it's really not that exciting, but it is to me. So tell me your favorite place. It's probably someplace fancy. These people will come up with like Paris and stuff like that, and I'm like, Whitefish, Montana, you know.
And one place that we like to go is Mackinac Island,
Yes.
up in Michigan. It's a fun place in the summer. Just kind of get away from all of the noise of the cars and
Sirens.
sirens.
I love that. It was quite a lead in there.
It was.
And we did not plan that, obviously.
But we would love to hear where you like to go so that maybe we can plan a trip there.
Yeah, that's it. Hit us in the app. It's super easy. I found that out, and now I do it all the time. I go and check the app. So tell us your favorite place to go. And hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's summertime. Go out and live an abundant life.